Hi everybody, welcome to Active Self-Protection Extra here today with Brian Hill. You know Brian, he's on the channel every Monday. And at ASP Staff Retreat this year, we are taking Brian Hill's Deliberate Coaching class, and I want him to tell us what this class is about, and then we're gonna get some input from the people taking it.
Dark Star Gear is one of the few companies that I trust to make holsters that I wear. They make high quality appendix carry holsters for a variety of firearms manufacturers. Check them out at the link in the description.
Brian, you said to us yesterday in day one of class that this is, you're doing now what you feel like you were meant to do.
Yeah.
Tell us about this class.
So I have a lifelong passion for coaching, almost 4 decades in the martial arts, and I'm doing in the shooting industry now. And I noticed that there's a lot of curriculum-based instruction courses, but there's not a lot on the modern methodology of coaching. And in martial arts, we went through this where we really had personality over principle.
Yeah.
I prefer this, so I coach this way.
Right.
But in sports, we've learned how to measure things, how to refine them, how to access people's, not only their technical skills, but their psychological and their physiological abilities, so the biology scales along with what we're doing. And then when you go to class, you get a lot of opportunity to coach somebody, to run a line, to learn the skills that are most difficult, where guys like us kind of had to figure it out on the fly, unless we had a good apprenticeship. You know?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think there's a lot. That's why we started the Instructor Certification with Active Self-Protection, because there's a lot about shooting, but not a lot about teaching.
Yes.
And about being student-centered and curriculum design and all that. So, and you're taking this class national.
Yes, yes. This is the 5th iteration this year already. So,
wow.
Yeah, and I think I have a couple more on the books, and I'm just enjoying it tremendously. You know, it's very interesting because people, I say their first client is themselves. Yeah. You have to be a good coach.
Sure.
So their shooting gets
coach
better.
Yourself.
It's actually changed some of the ideas for me in class of how I teach shooting myself in class, and giving a sense of more control and getting people to be more exploratory and speculative in their training allows them to really expand their horizons and not be caught by the orthodoxy of what they're doing all the time. You know?
So we talked yesterday, so we're actually the beginning of day 2 today. We talked yesterday about the client and how we are student-centered. Today we're talking about the curriculum a little bit. And he's really cool right off the bat. Hey, we went and did some shooting tests. We did your bullseye test. We did the trifecta. We did the, what's the 6th one? Pick 6 and Core 4. Yeah. Put links in all those as well. Great shooting tests. And of course, standing on a line with a couple of darn fine shooters. Yes. You know, Neil is an incredible shooter. Logan Moody, one of our moderators, is a great shooter. And it's all ASP staff this week.
Yes.
Super fun and 3-day curriculum.
Yeah.
And what's your goal for students to leave with the class?
I would like them to feel very centered in their teaching, so they understand accuracy and they understand consistency, efficiency, discipline. They understand the 3 modes of training of accuracy and precision, speed, efficiency, and performance mode. That they can translate the ideas to multiple styles of learners and different personalities, because we say it's a cue when you can teach a lot of different people. If your students always look like you only have one teaching style. Right. You know. And then I want people to avoid the horrendous mistakes that I had to go through myself. I want them to be able to shortcut and get the performances that are instantly available to a good coach and a good client. Nice. I want an advocacy. So it becomes a teamwork for the rest of your life, that you're taking care of the person, that you work together and become a better coach and a better shooter together. And I think that'll make a tremendous difference in our industry. And it will make people enjoy their job much more. They won't feel like they're struggling as much. Yeah, and I think, obviously we've had to struggle and learn and figure this stuff out, and we're trying to kind of, what you're hearing Brian talk about is modern educational philosophy, modern coaching philosophy that we're dragging in from the sports world, and not just the martial arts sports world, but, competitive sports, football and baseball, and they're seeing so many gains because of the new ways that they're approaching human psychology and the emotional side of things and vision and all those things. So a fantastic class so far. And even one day, I was like, man, at the end of day 1, totally worth being here, 100%. So now we got 2 more days. I'm also going to focus, we actually have 4 of our ASP female instructors who are here staff. This particular class, every year what we do at Active Self-Protection is we gather up as many of the staff as can come, and we do some training. And we've done Gabe White in the past. We've done a couple of them, and Brian this year, which is cool because, Brian is part of the ASP family as well. So, man, I'm excited for it. So, Brian, thanks for bringing this class here to South Dakota. Well, it's an honor, and thanks for the opportunity. I truly enjoy reaching the audience and spending time with you guys, and it's like being a family. And I commented this morning, there's a very high level of maturity in the shooting because people are handling the adversity well. And that's one of the things as personal protection instructors, we teach, you know, the adversity quotient.
Yes.
That you can be resilient, that you can overcome, that you can get better. And it's just brilliant to watch this group work together. So, real honor.
And, oh, I'm sure people are asking, we're actually standing, we jokingly call it the ASP Training Center Midwest. This is Neil and Stephanie Widener's house. And we're standing in what is our classroom, but we jokingly call it the Garage Mahal because it's literally a 2,400 square foot garage with, you know, Neil's pickup. You can see just a little tiny part is Neil's pickup in here and all that stuff. And we'll be out on the range too. This is an incredible home that they have, so we're using it. So, Brian, looking forward to the next few days, man.
Amen, brother. But listen, we're not talking about the client, we're talking about instructors. Instructors are beyond this portion of it, and then they require a female instructor. The question is why?
But RevTech also, for the longest time, was only male instructors. It's very military.
So there's the cue. That's the problem. All right. Now listen, I had a female partner. She was one of the best partners I ever had. She was good with folks. She was attentive. She worked hard. She stayed fit. She shot her gun well. I knew I could count on her because I did what? Trusted her. I had a big burly guy who was the worst partner I've ever had in my life. Lazy, ill-disciplined, did what he wanted to, could care less. Started fights. He was a problem. So once again, this is not gender-based. What you're looking for is creating trust with the client, and it doesn't matter. Gender does not give you any advantage, except in a trauma they may feel more comfortable with it. You want the best instructors. So the best jiu-jitsu instructor I know is a woman named Emily Kwok. Okay? I even put her above Hickson because she is 90 pounds. She is a small Asian woman, and her detail of jiu-jitsu is beyond anything I've ever seen because she had to make it work. Right. She had to fight men my size and make it work. Beautiful instructor. She never makes excuses. She does the work, and she engenders trust. So that's where that's going with all this. Don't choose somebody on gender because you're not getting what you want. Choose somebody on what? Their ability to create a legacy. Do their students get better? Do their students get better? And you can assess that very quickly, and you can read reviews for the answer.
Like, do they get better, and are they able to continue that on
That's
their
right.
own? Yeah.
That's right. And I'm going to give you 5 base things I believe for an instructor eventually. So the things that we're going to train to get the 3 things I talked about, of course, we have to work on draw. I believe shot calling is the future with the dot. I think it can be done at a high level quickly. Unlike, I think the success rate with iron shot calling was probably 20 or 30%. It was very low, very hard. Even high level of shooters, they didn't know how they're doing it. With the dot, it's super simple. The diagnostics are a lot easier to see. I'm not saying it's easy to call when I say it, but you can see the motion and you can start doing it. If you do it in three ways that we talked about, deliberate, reactive, and predictive, then you can either be very steady and learn to call, you can fix it in the moment, or you can be ahead of it and know where it's going, which is really important. And if you shoot somebody on the street, you will see no holes. All right, just throw a target over a shirt, or a shirt over a target, and shoot it. You don't see a lot, you don't get the feedback. And if we allow our clients to look at the target and come back, we're teaching them too slow of an immediate feedback loop. So that's something that I teach. And then I think multiple shots are important because of what we talked about. I'm seeing this big distance between a good draw and a draw to 2 shots. And so I know that's going to show up in shooting on the streets. We had mics yesterday on target. Good shooters have actually missed the cue under duress at 7 yards. So it's my job as an instructor to think, what creative solutions can we apply to help people get past that? Because I see it in the numbers, and they're not lying to me. I see it on the range, and I see it with good shooters. So I know it's a real problem. And much like John, when I see a problem, I want to jump in there, and I don't care who I offend. I want the truth. I want to get better at this. So how do we do that? We create micro drills. So what's a micro drill?
A short drill.
That it. Of just a very, very, very tiny thing. Okay? What's an isolation drill?
Doing that and only that.
Yes, so I'm doing the draw only. I've isolated just the draw. May not even have a shot in it. That's dry practice. Isolation efficiency. What's a combination drill? Yeah, so the smallest combination is draw and fire 2. That is a combination drill because it requires a good draw, it requires you to read the sights and a follow-up shot. All right? We do failure to neutralize a lot, not because we think people are going to need 2 to the body, 1 to the head. It is a great drill because it requires what? A draw, 2 shots, and a transition to a smaller target. That's how I always look at it. It is not the Mozambique drill. There's a big difference. There's a pause in that. That was to assess and then shoot to the head if they don't stop. The way we're training it in class is what? It's prearranged. We know we're going to the head. Okay? And if you listen to Chuck Pressburg, you listen to John Holsom, headshots are not a guarantee with pistols. We don't know what's going to happen. Bullets are simply rerouted and they don't stop. And then Claude does a whole series on ocular shots, how hard it is to make an ocular shot. And these are things that we need to know. And then performance drills are like what we did yesterday. The longer the chain, the harder it gets. So the Core 4 is hard on people because it's a series of 4 drills that have combinations and isolations in them. If you think about fighting, that's how we train fighters. We did it wrong in karate for a long time because we spent a lot of time isolating this movement, making it perfect, making small adjustments. But then when they fight, they can only throw that 1 punch and they would stop. My boxing coach said a full punch is a jab cross because it completes the cycle. If we think about it in shooting, pinning the trigger is the end cycle result. We're not at the beginning, we're at the end stage, and that's why it wastes time and doesn't help you. So the beginning cycle is the prep of the trigger. So we always should be getting our person back to prepping the trigger. Unless they don't need to shoot, then their finger needs to come off the trigger. But pinning doesn't help us. We know it's kind of a mistake that super pin on the Glock trigger happened, and what M&P have to do? Smith & Wesson, they had to re-engineer their pistol so they had a definite reset. I could care less about resets. I'm going to get off the trigger when I go really fast, and I'm going to prep it gently. And the law of inertia says what? If I stop moving, I have to put more force in it to get it moving again. And that's why we see a lot of drop shots on pinners. You should be listening to it in class. What I find with most coaches is they do some of this well, but they don't do the whole progression in class. You know, you should be moving from one to the next in a pretty short period of time. If you spend too much in micro or isolation, you create a big hanging piece of time that doesn't work. All right, so how do you connect parts? So these are some ideas. Most of us think we learn in a vertical manner. This goes to this, this goes to this. That's not how human beings work. They never have. Are you emotional or logical? You're emotional, 100% emotional. Find the logic guy that likes to believe he's logical and argue with him and see what happens. He becomes what? Emotional. He is not a Vulcan. Yeah, real fast. He gets madder than anybody else quicker, but he says he's based on logic. He's an emotional human being. And he'll probably believe that he learned vertically, that this led to this, that led to this, and occasionally it does. That's a good way to learn. Sometimes we learn laterally. We take information from another area that has nothing to do with what we are, and we apply it. So once I mastered one field, I found it incredibly easy to become very proficient in other fields. All right, Tim Ferriss talks about this. You become a deconstructionist. What's most important? He did a little thing where he decided he was going to learn jiu-jitsu in a 3-week period. So all he concentrated on was guillotine. Why guillotine? Because it happens in every position. From standing to the ground to the mount to the rear, there are all sorts of guillotines, and it gives you head control. It prevents takedowns. So it was a good way to start. It's a very isolated. I have a friend who's on the Olympic judo team. He has one throw. He has about 5 setups though. You know, so that's the way that works. And an unrelated knowledge is like, later we're going to talk about a comparison analysis. I use aviation a lot because they do a lot of smart things, and I use medical a lot because they do a lot of smart things. And also the end result is loss of lives. So it's a good analysis for me. What does a pilot do before he takes off? He has a preparatory index. He has a pattern, and that's what I don't see in shooting.
So the funny part, Brian, is as again, low-time pilot, right? And you go, gosh, man, in order to be a pilot, you've got to do all these things. Yep. You've got to be smart and all these things. And I was taught by very professional instructors.
Yes.
Good dudes. And then you get into the actual general aviation flying community, and it's filled with normal, stupid people.
Yes, it is.
And doing normal, stupid things that get them killed.
Yep.
And you go, wait, why do you do that, moron? That's not how we actually do the thing. Do it the way that you were taught.
But we need those people because they show us what not to do.
Yeah, well,
that's exactly what they're for. Yeah, that's it. In adaptive, have you guys ever come up with a drill on the fly?
Yeah.
You really didn't come up with it on the fly, you've been preparing for it. But I was incredibly impressed. I used to teach the compressed trigger break, on the timer to see what reaction time was. But I noticed an unintended consequence. People were so worried about being quick on the timer that their group shrunk. Because they were no longer worried about aiming. So I started using it for zeroing pistols. When I couldn't define whether it was the gun or the person, I'd simply put them on that and say, race the timer, and then I'd watch the group, and then I know if they have a problem. It's an adaptive. I didn't expect it, but it works great. All right? It's an easy way to zero red dot pistols. Because they've already aimed. All they're waiting for is this. And then you can isolate the thing that's wrecking their aiming. So it's an adaptive thing. In class, people should be ambivalent in their emotions. How many of you were really excited and anxious at the same time yesterday? That's where we learn best. And the best way to cement learning was with a bit of adrenaline at the end of class. It cements it in our learning process. It's very interesting. A bit of adrenaline is good. But this emotional ambivalence of not knowing quite where you are in the world allows you to learn better, because the brain quests for knowledge that can lead to your survival in the environment. If you feel completely at ease and you feel completely secure, you're not going to learn as well. You got to be careful of that. I know many of you are loving, kind human beings, but you may not be doing your client a favor by allowing them to feel safe. Ask your kids which one you want them to be, strong or safe. Because we have tried for 2 years to make people safe, and what we created was more drug dependency and more suicides. You can't make people safe. Jail doesn't make it safe. Nobody can be safe, but we can make them strong. And they're coming to you for adversity quotient. They need to learn how to be resilient. So allow them to experience it. And the safety you create in that is that it's very small. It's a very small problem. It's a microcosm of the universe, but it reflects their personal struggle.